the vaccines, the Wi-Fi, or the toxins in the food, a lot of them shown to distort the functioning of DNA and RNA. How can people use their consciousness to, in essence, reprogram their own DNA or protect themselves from these things?
Well, first of all, we can do everything we can to not consume this chemical crap that we're given in food and drink, which distorts, as you quite rightly say, the vibrational field of the body. And what we are, we're receiver transmitters of information. This reality is basically what I call it the holographic internet. We are receiving information and we are decoding it into this reality. We're like computers in a Wi-Fi internet situation. The matrix, the reality we're decoding, is actually all around us. Just like the Wi-Fi is all around us in this room. We can't see it, but when we decode it, suddenly it becomes a room and it appears to be solid. Now this room can't be solid because it's made up of atoms, and atoms have no solidity. This is the great bewilder and conundrum that scientists have. And the reason they can't work out how something solid can be made out of a non-solid thing like atoms is because this isn't solid. This appears solid because that's decoded that way through the mind. So what they're trying to do with this bombardment of electromagnetic, microwave, chemical onslaught is to distort and disharmonize the body in terms of its receiving, transmitting, so that it's limiting the range of frequencies that we can access, therefore the range of awareness and perception that we can decode. So not doing that stuff makes it easier. But the other thing is that, there's a lot more to know about this. I don't claim to know it all. But it is all about frequency. And this manipulation is operating within a certain frequency range. While we allow ourselves to be manipulated to vibrate within that frequency range, we're playing within the stadium of manipulation. Once you open your consciousness and open your heart, you start vibrating to a faster frequency. And it's a frequency that eventually goes beyond the frequency of manipulation. So it's like they become radio 1 trying to manipulate radio 2. They can't get at you because they're no longer in that frequency range that you're operating at. And this is why, as I detail in the books and the talks, the whole of society is structured to hold us through emotional and mental and physical manipulation in this frequency range that they operate in. And once we're in there, then we're affected by their electromagnetics, by their microwaves, by all this stuff, by their food additives. Once you go beyond that frequency, all those food additives and all those microwaves and all that electromagnetic pollution is operating within a frequency range that no longer touches you. This is the power of us to overcome these things is massive, but only when we become aware that we have that power. There's the famous story of the scientist from America who was investigating LSD and the effects of LSD. And he went out to the east to some guy who was had trained his consciousness to a level of power in which he could control his reality. And he gave this guy LSD and had no effect. He gave him another massive dose of LSD, which would have blown the minds of other people in his experiment. The guy sat and smiled at him because the LSD was not affecting him, because his mind was more powerful than the effect of the LSD. Because consciousness is all powerful, but when you allow yourself to fall into a small fragment of consciousness, then it can be overpowered, but not when you open up to the full magnitude of it. And this guy, this scientist, that basically then became a mystic, having seen this. I think he called himself Ramdas or something. And so we have the power to overcome these things, but only if we open ourselves to it. And the biggest thing to overcome is fear. Because fear, when people are in fear and stress, which are expressions of each other, what do people say? I feel so heavy today. I feel so dense today, or the stuff like so heavy. And it's because the energy field vibrates slower and slower the more stress and the more I feel tight is another thing we say. The more you get pulled into this thing. And so we have a society that is structured to get people to constantly be in fear, to constantly be in worry, to constantly feel guilty or stressful and all the rest of it. It's to hold your vibration down. So you're operating within the frequency range they're manipulating. Because of their own frequency range, they can't manipulate out here, they can't get there. So if we get there, they can't get at us. And so in the end, it's not out here that the changes have to take place, it's in here, because then the changes will take place out here as a matter of course, because this is just a projection, it's just a movie screen, this is the projector, this has to change. A lot of people don't want to hear this, because it means they've got to take responsibility. It's much easier to say it's his fault, they're to blame, they're manipulating. Well, yes, there are manipulators, they've been exposing them for nearly 20 years. But the manipulated are only manipulated by manipulators because they allow themselves to be. Okay, there's mitigating circumstances to an extent that it's been done unknowingly and people have been kept in the dark about it. But there's still, we're still making decisions all the time in circumstances, and we're saying, what do I do in this situation? We still have the choice to say, I'm going to do what's right here in this situation, what's just and fair. No, what are the consequences for me? What's best for me in this situation? That's the decisions we make, and therefore we perpetuate the society of manipulation and control through self-interest and all the rest of it. When we could, even with the manipulation, we could still make a decision and say, no, I'm going to do what's fair and right here, and society would change as a result if more and more people did that. So we have to take responsibility, the manipulated, for what's happened and what's happening, and when we do that, then we can change it, because we're talking about in a planet of 6 million, a handful of people who are knowingly, in full knowledge, advancing this agenda. Everyone else is doing it with less and less knowledge, right down to the general population. And people say, I don't know why we've been asked to do this, I don't know, it's come up from on high, I don't know. Mine's not to reason why, mine's just to do or die, better get on with it. Well, there's a responsibility here. Hold on a second, I'm being asked to do this. But what is the effect of me doing this? Oh, well, I better do it because I've got my job and all this, and then I'll get in trouble if I don't do it. And, more than my job's worth not to do it. It's this mentality that allows the few to control the pyramid. We need to take responsibility and start saying, well, I know someone theoretically higher than me in this structure, higher than me only because the structure that someone else has created is telling me to do this. And I know there are consequences for me of refusing to do it, but it's not right to do it, so I ain't going to do it. Now, if people aren't prepared to do that, then the structure will go on. So stop bloody complaining. And we are responsible, and we have the power, and we can change it. We just have to make the choice and the commitment to. And more and more people are, but we need a tidal wave still compared to the numbers that are in that mode at the moment.